Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf. I'm trying again. I just went through a whole reading of the Geneva Bible with no video and the wrong thumbnail. So let me know if you can hear me and see me in the comments, and I will start over. If you can't hear me and see me, I'll table it. But if you can, just let me know and I will keep going. So this is the Geneva Bible, the Founder's Bible, the Dissident Bible, 1560. And as you know, it was written by a group of dissidents in Geneva who had fled England because they would be martyred, and some were martyred by the church. At that time, the position that these dissidents had, who inspired the Puritans who came to this country, was that everyone should be free to read and able to read the Word of God. To my amazement, this Bible was banned for quite a long time. So we're going to pick up with chapter 29. And I got emails that using the Jerusalem Bible as a comparison wasn't really fair because it is acknowledged to be a bad translation. So I was advised to use the Revised Standard Version, which is a Catholic modern translation. I did, and I hope that Catholics and members of the church will not be angry at me. I am sorry to say that I found not as bad, but multiple important mistranslations in this version as well, the RSV. So I'll just get right to it. And as you remember, we compared the versions we were reading to the Hebrew. So I'll just jump right in. Then Yaacob lifted up his feet and came into the east country. And as he looked about, behold, there was a well in the field. And lo, 3 flocks of sheep lay thereby, for at that well were the flocks watered. And there was a great stone upon the well's mouth. And thither there were all the flocks gathered. And they rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in his place. And Yaakov said unto them, My brethren, whence be ye? Where are you from? And they answered, We are of Haran. And the note says, it seems in those days the custom was to call even strangers brothers. And he said unto them, Know you Laban, the son of Nahor? Who said, We know him. Again he said unto them, Is he in good health? And they answered, He is in good health. And behold, his daughter Rachel comes with the sheep. And the note says, Or is he in peace? By these words, the Hebrews signify all prosperity. And the Hebrew is indeed beshalom, meaning in peace. And then he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water you the sheep and go feed them. But they said, We may not, we can't, until all the flocks be brought together, and till that men roll a stone from the well's mouth that we may water the sheep. There was a blockage over the mouth of the well. While he talked with them, Rachel also came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And as soon as Yaakov saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, then came Yaakov near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And remember, there's an echo here of the story of Rebekah and Abraham's servant. Remember that Abraham was at a well a generation ago and was instructed to bring home the young lady who offered to water his camel. And now we have an inversion. We have Yaakov offering to get water to the sheep of Rachel. And Yaakov kissed Rachel. I'm sorry. And as soon as Yaacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, then came Yaakov near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Yaakov kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. For Yaakov told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. Then she ran and told her father. And you remember in the last reading, Rebekah ran and told her mother. So echoes. And when Laban heard tell of Yaakov, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. To whom Laban said, well, thou art my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him the space of a month. For Laban said unto Yaakov, though thou be my brother, shouldst thou therefore serve me for naught? Meaning, even though you're my relative, that doesn't mean you should work for me for nothing. Tell me, what shall be your wages? Now Laban had two daughters, the elder called Leah and the younger Rachel. And Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and fair. So this is the first interesting difference in translations. This is tender-eyed in the Geneva Bible. The RSV is Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful and lovely. And the Hebrew is Ve'enei Leah, in the eyes of Leah, rakot, they were soft, rach. Ve'Rachel haita, and Rachel was yafat te'ar, beautiful of feature, ve'yafat mar'eh, and beautiful of aspect. So rach is soft, and also innocent and immature, young. So it may not be, this note says blear-eyed, but it may not be that she had some actual damage to her eye or problem with her eye. It may be that she was young or soft-eyed, meaning she loved Yaakov. And Yaakov loved Rachel and said, I will serve you, Laban, 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. Then Laban answered, it is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me, stay with me. And Yaakov served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days because he loved her. Another great love story. Then Yaakov said to Laban, give me my wife that I may go into her, for my term, the period that I've committed to serve you, is ended. Wherefore, at which point Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. But when the evening was come, he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him, and he, meaning Yaakov, went in unto her. And Laban gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. But when the morning was come, behold, it was Leah. Then said he, Yaakov, to Laban, wherefore, why have you done thus to me? Did I not serve you for Rachel? Wherefore, why then have you beguiled me? He slept with the wrong woman. The wrong bride was brought to him. And the note says, the cause why Yaakov was deceived was that in old time, the wife was covered with a veil when she was brought to her husband in sign of chastity and shamefastness. And that means modesty. And to this day, of course, in parts of the world, women are veiled, and especially brides are veiled. Well, we still have a vestige of that with the bridal veil in the West. And Laban answered, it is not the manner of this place to give the younger before the elder. It's not our custom to marry the younger daughter before the elder. And the note says, he esteemed more the profit that he had of Jacob's service than either his promise or the manner of the country, although he alleged custom for his excuse. Fulfill 7 years for her, and we will also give you this for the service, which you shall serve me yet 7 years more. So he tricked Yaakov. Then Yaakov did so and fulfilled her 7 years. So he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to be his wife. Laban also gave to Rachel his servant Bilhah, his maid, to be her servant. So entered he into Rachel also, meaning Yaakov entered into Rachel also, and loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served him yet 7 years more. When the Lord saw that Leah was despised, he made her fruitful, but Rachel was barren. And in Hebrew, he opened her womb. And the note says, this declares that oft times who are despised of men are favored of God. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuven, for she said, because the Lord hath looked upon my tribulation, now therefore mine husband will love me. And the note says, hereby appears that she had recourse to God in her affliction. And it adds, for children are a great cause of mutual love between man and wife. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, because the Lord heard that I was hated, he has therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Shimon. Shimon is from Shomea, the Lord heard. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, now at this time will my husband keep me company, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. Moreover, she conceived again and bare a son, saying, now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Yehudah, and stopped bearing children. Chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bare Yaakov no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Yaakov, give me children, or else I die. And Yaakov's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead, which hath withholden from you the fruit of the womb? Am I God? It's not my fault. And the note says, it is only God that makes barren and fruitful, and therefore I am not in fault. This is Yaakov speaking. And she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go into her, and she shall bear upon my knees, and I shall have children also by her. And the note says, I will receive her children on my lap as though they were mine own. I just want to note, in that time and until really a century ago, midwives would actually hold women in childbirth on their laps or put them on childbirth stools. So it's possible that this is a metaphor, or it's possible that she is doing what women did at that time, which is help other women to give birth by literally holding them up, supporting them while they gave birth. Then she gave him Bilhah, her maid, to wife, and Yaakov went into her. So Bilhah conceived and bare Yaakov a son. Then said Rachel, God has given sentence on my side and has also heard my voice and has given me a son. Therefore called his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and bare Yaakov the second son. Then Rachel said, with excellent wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister and have gotten the upper hand. And she called his name Naphtali. And the note says, the arrogancy of man's nature appears in that she condemns her after she has received this benefit of God to bear children. And that is so perceptive of human nature. Here, Rachel is getting what she wants. She's surrounded by children in her life. And instead of thanking God, she's gloating that she finally has the upper hand in this sibling rivalry. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her to Yaacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Yaakov a son. Then said Leah, a company comes, and she called his name Gad. And the note says, that is, God does increase me with a multitude of children, for so Yaakov does expound this name Gad. Again, Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Yaakov another son. Then said Leah, blessed am I, for the daughters will bless me. And she called his name Asher, and that means rich to this day in Hebrew. Now Reuven went in the days of the wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then said Rachel to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. Now, mandrakes are a human-shaped root, and up through the Renaissance, they were believed to help with fertility. And Yaakov came from the field. Oh, I'm sorry. Then said Rachel to Leah, give me, I pray you, of your son's mandrakes. But she answered her, is it a small matter for you to take my husband, except you take my son's mandrakes also? Then said Rachel, therefore he shall sleep with you this night for your son's mandrakes. And again, you've got this echo of Esau coming up from the field and seeing his brother's pottage soup and saying, give me some or I'll die, and then trading his inheritance for that soup. Same echo of a transaction here. And Yaakov came from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, come into me, for I have bought and paid for you with my son's mandrakes. And he slept with her that night. Now, I want to tell you something really interesting about these translations of that phrase. The RSV says, you must come into me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. And what does the Hebrew say? The Hebrew, this word hired or wages is very, very interesting. So here we are. So when Jacob came from the field, in the Hebrew, v'yavo Yaakov, and came Jacob min hasadeh, from the field, ba'erev, in the evening, v'tetze Leah, Leah went out to him, likrato, and called him, v'tomer, and said, Tomer, Elai tavo, toward me come, ki sachar sechartecha, I have, it could mean hired you with wages, or the same word, sachar, sechartecha, the word is repeated, can also mean reward or profit. So she could be flirting with him and saying, I'll reward you. You come get your reward. I've got something to reward you with. Bedudae, with the mandrakes of my son, vishkav ima, and he lay with her, balaylahu, on that night. And this word, listen to it because it's going to recur and recur. So where are we with the childbearing? And God heard Leah, and she conceived and bare unto Yaakov the fifth son, Sachal. Then said Leah, God has given me my reward. So how does that sound? 18, God has given me my reward. Vatomer Leah, Leah said, Natan Elohim Sechari, God gave me my reward. It's the same word. It's not hire, it's reward. Asher natati shifchati, that I gave my manservant leishi, to my husband, v'tikra shmo Yisaschar. So the wordplay is triple here. She called the name of her son Yisaschar, reward. Okay, Issachar is how it's translated in English. After Leah conceived again and bare Yaakov the sixth son, then Leah said, God hath endowed me with a good dowry. Now will mine household dwell with me, now will mine husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. After that, she bare a daughter, and she called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God heard her and opened her womb. So she conceived and bare a son, and said, God has taken away my rebuke. And she called his name Yosef, saying, the Lord will give me another son. And now this is very interesting. The RSV says, and she calls his name Joseph, saying, may the Lord add to me another son, prayerfully. That is not what it says. It's a declaration. She says, V'tikra et shmo Yosef, and she called his name Yosef, Lemar, for example, so as to say, Yosef Adonai li, God will add to me ben acher, another son. God will add to me another son. The way people speak about God's role in their life in this part of the Bible is so confident and so declarative. God has heard me. God has seen me. And again, that echo of Hagar, God has listened to his maidservant in the desert. so Rachel is not saying, oh, may he do that. The RSV is wrong in this translation. It is a declarative, God will do that. God will add another son to me. And as soon as Rachel had borne Yosef, Yaakov said to Laban, send me away that I may go unto my place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know what service I have done you. To whom Laban answered, if I have now found favor in your sight, tarry, stay. I have perceived that the Lord has blessed me for your sake. Now, the RSV translates that as, oddly, if you will allow me to say so, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. But it doesn't say that. It says, Vayomer elav, and said to him Laban, im na, if now, or if pray, matzati chen, I found favor be'enecha, in your eyes, nechashti, I've guessed, I've surmised, ve'yevaracheni, and I have been blessed, and God has blessed me for your sake. So it doesn't say anything about divination. It says he's kind of guessed, he's presumed, he's concluded. This is an example to me of how consistently in the modern translations, intermediaries or organized religions or organized rituals are foregrounded or really presented where they don't exist. And the immediate relationship, the confident, joyful, loving relationship that humans have with God in the original is downplayed or diluted. Also, he said, appoint unto me your wages, and I will give it to thee. And what do you think the word is? It's for wages, is secharacha. It's the same word as reward, profit. This is the 6th or 7th time we have a play on that word. So this section is really asking us, I think, to consider what is profit, what is reward? Is it material or is it something else? And I will give it thee. But he said unto him, you know what service I've done you, and in what taking your cattle have been under me. For the little that you had before I came is increased into a multitude, and the Lord has blessed you by my coming. But now when shall I travel for mine own house also? And the note says, the order of nature requires that everyone provide for his own family. Then he said, what shall I give you? And Yaakov answered, you shall give me nothing at all. If you will do this thing for me, I will return, feed, and keep your sheep. I will pass through all your flocks this day and separate from them all the sheep with little spots and great spots, and all black lambs among the sheep, and the great spotted and little spotted among the goats, and it shall be my wages, so that my righteousness answer for me hereafter, when it shall come for my reward before your face. And every one that has not little or great spots among the goats and black among the sheep, the same shall be theft with me. I will only take the spotted sheep and goats, and the ones with black. And the note says, God has, I can't read that, unfortunately, but I will say there's another mistranslation here. 33 is definitely, so shall my righteousness answer for me hereafter. In Hebrew, it's ve'antabi, and will testify for me, tzidakti, my righteousness. Tzedakah is righteousness. It's also charity. You give tzedakah. A tzaddik is a righteous man to this day. Tzaddikah is a righteous woman. It is completely righteousness. But how is it translated at the RSV? In the RSV, honesty. So my honesty will answer for me later. But it simply isn't honesty. And again, to me, that's a much more kind of office politics-y way to, it makes it more prosaic. whereas my righteousness, people felt so close to God, they were aware of whether they were in a state of righteousness or not. Then Laban said, "Go to, would God it might be according to thy saying." Therefore, he took out the same day the he-goats that were party-colored, meaning multicolored, and with great spots, large spots, and all the she-goats with little and great spots, and all that had white in them, and all the black among the sheep, and put them in the keeping of his sons. So Laban tricked him a second time. And he set 3 days' journey between himself and Yaakov kept the rest of Laban's sheep, and he left him. Then Yaakov took rods of green poplar and of hazel and of the chestnut tree and peeled white streaks in them and made the white appear in the rods. He made the rods spotted. And the note says, Yaakov herein used no deceit, for it was God's commandment, as he declares in the next chapter. Then he put the rods, which he had peeled, in the gutters and watering troughs when the sheep came to drink, before the sheep, for they were in heat when they came to drink. And the sheep were in heat before the rods, and afterward brought forth young of party color, multicolor, and with small and great spots. So the ones who drank from the trough where these spotted rods were and saw them were in heat and gave birth to young that were spotted. And Yaakov parted these lambs and turned the faces of the flock toward these lambs, party-colored and all manner of black among the sheep of Laban. So he put his own flocks by themselves and put them not with Laban's flocks. And in every ramming time of the stronger sheep, Yaakov laid the rods before the eyes of the sheep in the gutters, and that they might conceive before the rods. But when the sheep were feeble, weak, he put them not in, and so the feebler were Laban's and the stronger Yaakov's. So the man increased exceedingly, he got richer and had many flocks and maidservants and menservants and camels and asses, meaning donkeys. Now he heard the words of Laban, and Now he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Yaakov has taken away all that was our father's, and of our father's goods has he gotten all this honor. And the note says, the children uttered in words that which the father dissembled in heart. For the covetous think that whatsoever they cannot snatch is plucked from them. And that is so true. Also, Yaakov beheld the countenance, the face of Laban, quote, of Laban, that it was not toward him as in times past. And the Lord had said unto Yaakov, turn again into the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. Therefore Yaakov sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock. He said unto them, then said he unto them, I see your father's countenance. It is not toward me as it was wont, as in the past. And the God of my father has been with me. Interesting mistranslation. The RSV says, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before, but the God of my father has been with me. Well, this is, to me, another example of modern translations using a logic or grammar that makes sense, that makes the story make sense in kind of modern, almost secular terms, like, oh dear, I'm in trouble, but the God of my fathers is with me. But that's not the logic in the Bible, and that's not the grammar in the Bible. It is very clear that it's and the God of my father is with me. I will read it to you. Vayomer lahen, and he said to them, to his wives, Ro'e anochi, I see, et pnei, the face Avichen, of your father, ki einenu elai kitmol, he is not toward me as yesterday, shilshom, or the day before, ve Elohei avi and the God of my fathers haya imadi, and the God of my fathers is with me, and not just with me. That would be itani. It's imadi, kind of within me, like so close to me that it's inside of me almost. So this is and. So this logic is I'm in trouble and God is with me, not I'm in trouble, but God is with me. It's a much more confident phrasing in which people don't even doubt the presence of God. They know that when they're in trouble, especially God is with them. That's the grammar of the Bible, which is not reflected in the RSV in this case. All right. Let's find the place that I left off. So sorry. Yes. And you know that I have served your father with all my might, but your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But God suffered him, allowed him not to hurt me. If he thus said, the spotted shall be thy wages, then all the sheep bore spotted. And if he said thus, the party colored shall be your reward, then bear all the sheep party colored. What he's saying is, no matter what I do, God is determined to increase me. Thus has God taken away your father's substance and given it to me. For in ramming time I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the he-goats leapt upon the she-goats that were party-colored with little and great spots spotted. And the angel of God said to me in a dream, Yaacob, and I answered, Lo, I am here. And he said, Lift up now your eyes and see all the he-goats leaping upon the she-goats that are party-colored, spotted with little and great spots, for I have seen all that Laban does unto you. I am the God of Bet-El, where you anointed the pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now arise, get you out of this country and return unto the land where you were born. And the note says, this declares that the thing which Yaacob did before was by God's commandment. We saw that. And the note says, this angel was Christ, who appeared to Yaacob in Bethel, and hereby appears he had taught his wives to the fear of God, for he talks as though they knew this thing. Then answered Rachel and Leah and said unto him, have we any more portion and inheritance in our father's house? Does not he count us as strangers? For he has sold us and has eaten up and consumed our money. He's using up our inheritance. Therefore, all the riches which God has taken from our father is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God has said unto you, do it. They are wholly in support of their husband. Then Yaakov rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his flocks and all his substance which he had gotten, to wit, that is to say, his riches which he had gotten, for to go to Yitzchak his father unto the land of Canaan. When Laban was gone to shear his sheep, then Rachel stole her father's idols. Thus Yaakov stole away the heart of Laban the Aramite, for he told him not that he fled. So the RSV translates that as outwitted, but it is not outwitted, and this is important. Okay, so here we have line 20, Vayignav, and he thieved Yaakov et lev Laban, and Yaakov stole the heart et lev Laban, Laban's heart, ha-Arami, the Aramite, al-bli hagidlo, by not telling him ki borechu, that he is fleeing. He stole his heart. And to me, this is so important because outwitted is just sneaky and mean, and you don't really know what Laban is feeling. But in God's narrative, as the omniscient narrator of this story, God knows what Laban is feeling. And even though Laban is a sneaky infidel, God is imagining being inside of Laban, as he is, the loss of both of his daughters, his grandsons, most of his wealth, his son-in-law, in the middle of the night, and that he stole his heart. And so that's the translation. He didn't outwit him. He literally stole his heart. And God is that compassionate that he imagines even bad people's pain. So fled he with all that he had, and he rose up and passed the river and set his face toward Mount Gilead. And by the way, the RSV translates that continually as the hill country of Gilead, and it isn't the hill country of Gilead. Line 23, it's Behar HaGilad, in the mountain of Gilead, Mount Gilead. It's not the hill country. And I mention this because these people, all this activity takes place on God's sacred mountain. The hill country of Gilead just makes it seem like a travelogue. The original language is so much more. Every activity has profound spiritual implications here, and these events take place right on God's holy mountain, rather than kind of roundabout, vaguely in that direction. The third day after it was told Laban that Yaacob fled, then he took his brethren, meaning his companions, with him and followed him 7 days' journey and overtook him at Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Aramite in a dream by night and said unto him, take heed that thou speak not to Yaakov aught save good. Don't say anything but good to him. Then Laban overtook Yaacob, and Yaacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban also with his brethren pitched upon Mount Gilead. Then Laban said to Yaacob, what have you done? You have even stolen away mine heart and carried away my daughters as though they had been taken captive with the sword, as though they were prisoners of war. Why? Wherefore didst you flee so secretly and steal away from me, and didst not tell me that I might have sent you forth with mirth and with songs, with timbrel and with harp? But you have not allowed me to kiss my sons, meaning my grandsons and my daughters. Now you have done foolishly in doing so. I am able to do you evil. But the God of your father spoke unto me yesternight, saying, take heed that you speak not to Yaakov anything but good. And the note says he was an idolater and therefore would not acknowledge the God of Yaakov for his God. Now, though thou went your way because you greatly longed after your father's house, yet why have you stolen my gods? Then Yaakov answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid and thought that you would have taken your daughters from me. But with whom you find your gods, let him not live. Search thou before our brethren what I have of yours, and take it to you. But Yaakov didn't know that Rachel had stolen them. Then came Laban into Yaakov's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maids' tents, but found them not. So he went out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the idols and put them in the camel's litter and sat down upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. Then said she to her father, my lord, be not angry that I cannot rise up before you, for the custom of women is upon me. Meaning she was saying, I can't get up, I'm menstruating. And that was an acceptable excuse to not get up at that time. So he searched, but found not the idols. Then Yaakov was wroth, angry, and argued with Laban. Yaakov also answered and said to Laban, what have I trespassed? What have I offended that you have pursued after me? Seeing you have searched all my stuff, what have you found of all your household stuff? Put it here before my brothers and your brothers, that they may judge between us both. And you can hear this family frustration, this family feud, like simmering for 20 years, boiling up. This 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your goats have not cast their young. They haven't miscarried. I took care of them. And the rams of your flock have I not eaten. He didn't cheat his father-in-law. Whatsoever was torn of beasts, I brought it not unto you, but made it good myself. He covered his losses out of his own pocket. Of mine hand did you require it, were it stolen by day or stolen by night? I was in the day consumed with heat and with frost in the night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in your house and served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your sheep, and you have changed my wages 10 times. He is very upset. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzchak had been with me, surely you had sent me away now empty. Now the RSV translates that if God had not been on my side. They translated, if the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. But it's not on my side. It's much, much stronger than that. God isn't just on his side. Lulei Elohei Avi, Elohei Avraham, Upachad Yitzchak, and the fear of Isaac, Hayali, Ki ata rekam shilchateni, been for me. Had not the God of my father been for me, Hayali, Pachad Yitzchak Hayali. It's more like, if not the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, been to me. So much, much stronger than been on my side. On my side sounds like a sporting event. Surely thou had sent me away now empty, but God beheld my tribulation and the labor of my hands and rebuked you yesternight. Then Laban answered and said unto Jacob, Yaacob, these daughters are my daughters, and the sons, meaning grandsons, are my sons, and these sheep are my sheep, and all that you see is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or to their sons which they have borne? He's giving up. He's saying, they're leaving you. They're leaving me. I get it. I have to accept it. Now, therefore, come and let us make a covenant, I and thou, which may be a witness between me and thee. And the note says, his conscience reproved him of his misbehavior toward Yaakov, and therefore moved him to seek peace. Then took Yaakov a stone and set it up as a pillar. And Yaakov said unto his brethren, gather stones, who brought stones and made an heap, and they did eat there upon the heap, the pile of stones. And Laban called it Yegar Fahaduta, and Yaakov called it Galeed. For Laban said, this heap is witness between me and you this day. Therefore he called the name of it Galeed. Also he called it Mitzpach, because he said, the Lord look between me and you when we shall be departed from one another. If you shall vex, anger my daughters, or shall take wives before my daughters, there is no man with us. Behold, God is witness between me and you. So even this pagan who does not worship Yahweh is acknowledging that Yahweh is powerful enough to keep an eye on this situation, keep peace. Moreover, Laban said to Yaakov, behold this heap, and behold the pillar, which I have set between me and you. This heap shall be witness, and the pillar shall be witness, that I will not come over this heap to you, and that you shall not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for evil, to do harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor and the God of their father be judge between us. But Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Yitzchak. And the note says, behold how the idolaters mingle the true God with their feigned, meaning false gods. Then Yaakov did offer a sacrifice upon the mount and called his brothers to eat bread. And they did eat bread and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning, Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. And Laban, departing, went unto his place again. The note says, we see that there is ever some seed of knowledge, the knowledge of God in the hearts of the wicked. Chapter 32. This is the last chapter, but it's a very important one, so I will read it. How are we doing for time? Oh, lots of comments. I will read them all. Now Yaakov went forth on his journey, and the angels of God met him. And when Yaakov saw them, he said, "This is God's host," and called the name of the same place Machanaim, which means camps. And the note says, he acknowledges God's benefits, who for the preservation of his sends hosts, meaning armies of angels. Then Yaakov sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, unto the land of Seir, into the country of Edom. And you remember that Esau does not like Yaakov and wanted to kill him. To whom he gave commandments, saying, "Thus shall you speak to my lord Esau, that your servant Yaakov says thus, I have been a stranger with Laban, and tarried unto this time, and waited unto this time. I have ewes," meaning oxen also, "and asses, donkeys, sheep, and men servants, and women servants, and have sent to show my lord that I might find grace in your sight." So the messengers came again to Yaakov, saying, "We came unto your brother Esau, and he also comes against you, and 400 men with him." Then Yaakov was greatly afraid and was sore troubled, and divided the people that was with him, and the sheep, and the oxen, the ewes, and the camels into two companies. For he said, "If Esau come to the one company and smite it, attack it, the other company shall escape." And the note says, albeit he was comforted by the angels, yet the infirmity of the flesh does appear. So even though we've got an army of angels around us, we can still get nervous and lose confidence. Moreover, Yaakov said, "O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Yitzchak, Lord, which said to me, return unto your country and to your kindred, and I will do you good. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and all the truth which you've showed unto your servant. For with my staff came I over this Jordan, and now have I gotten 2 bands." So the RSV translates that as, I am not worthy of the least of all the steadfast love and all the faithfulness which thou hast shown to thy servant. Well, it really doesn't say that in the Hebrew. I mean, really, 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 really doesn't say that. And I'm going to read to you the Hebrew because it says something super different and it matters. Here it is. Katanti, Michol HaChasadim. I am like, katan means small. I feel myself growing small in the face of all of the chasadim is mercies. Chesed is mercy. A chassid is a merciful, good person. Chassidut is mercy. There's no way that it's steadfast love, it's mercy. And umichol ha'emet, and emet is just truth, and from all the truth, asher asita, which you have done toward your servant, et avdecha, ki bi makli avarti, because with nothing but a staff I have crossed, et hayarden hazeh, this Jordan, so colloquial and beautiful, ve'ata, and now hayiti lishnei machanot, and now I'm the leader of 2 camps of people and animals. But it's not like this language of I am not worthy. He doesn't say I'm not worthy. He's just saying, you're so big, it makes me feel small in comparison from all of the mercy and all of the truth that you have done to me, your servant. It is not a groveling relationship to God at all in this phrase. It is a super effect. It's like if you had the most awesome best friend on earth and they happen to be as big as the universe. Sometimes you would feel small in comparison, especially if they're heaping mercy and truth on you. And the word truth, it's so interesting that the word truth is elided and change to faithfulness, it's not faithfulness. God is giving his servant truth, doing truth to his servant, literally in the grammar, doing mercy to his servant. Again, a much more intimate and equal relationship in which God is kind of bestowing, granting, sharing truth and mercy with his loved ones, who are kind of his right hand men and women. Completely different tone. For with my staff came I over this Jordan, and now have I gotten 2 bands. I pray thee, deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me and the mother upon the children. For you said, I will surely do you good, and make your seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. And he tarried there the same night, and stayed, and took of that which came to hand a present for Esau his brother, and 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 kine, which means cows, and 10 bullocks, 20 she-asses, meaning donkeys, and 10 foals. So he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, pass before me and put space between drove and drove, meaning group of animals and group of animals. And he commanded the foremost servant, saying, if Esau my brother meet you and ask you, saying, whose servant are you, and where go you, and whose are these before you? Then you shall say, they be your servant Yaacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, he himself also is behind us. He's hoping to mollify the rage of his brother Esau. So likewise commanded he the second and third and all that followed the droves, saying, after this manner you shall speak unto Esau when you find him, and you shall say, moreover, behold, your servant Yaacob comes after us, for he thought, and I will appease his wrath, his anger, with a present that goes before me, and afterward I will see his face. It may be that he will accept me. Very poignant. Note says he thought it no loss to depart with these goods to the interest he might follow the vocation whereunto God called him. He didn't care about losing all this money and all this property as long as he could follow it in the path that God had called him. So went the present before him, but he tarried that night with the company. He stayed with them. And he rose up the same night and took his 2 wives and his 2 maids and his 11 children and went over the ford Yabok. That's the name of the ford over the river. And he took them and sent them over the river and sent over that he had, everything he had. When Yaacob was left himself alone, he sent over his family. He's all alone. There wrestled a man with him unto the breaking of the day. And the note says, that is God in form of man. And it goes on, for God assails his own with one hand and upholds them with the other. How true is that? When he saw that he could not prevail against him, the RSV says that he did not prevail against him. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, okay, very different. Therefore he, the man, touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was loosed as he wrestled with him. The bone was, the joint was detached. And he said, let me go, for the morning appears. Who answered, I will not let you go except you bless me. Jacob is saying to the man, bless me, and then I'll let you go. Then said he unto him, what is your name? And he said, Yaakov. Then said he, your name shall be called Yaakov no more, but Israel, because you had power with God. You shall also prevail with men. And the note says, God gave Yaakov both power to overcome and also to praise of the victory. Then Yaakov demanded, saying, tell me, I pray you, your name. And he said, wherefore, why now do you ask my name? and he blessed him there. And Yaakov called the name of the place Peniel. Panaim is face, El is God. For, said he, I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And the sun rose to him as he passed Peniel, and he halted upon his thigh. He limped. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew that shrank in the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the sinew that shrank in the hollow of Jacob's thigh. So this is so important, and this is the last thing I'm reading for tonight. My whole life, even when I was in Hebrew school, this section of the Bible was taught to me as Jacob wrestling with an angel. He is not wrestling with an angel. He's wrestling with God. God descends to Jacob in the form of a man and basically says so. Your name will be called Yaakov no more, but Israel, because you have had power with God. You shall also prevail with men. And God, and Jacob knows what he has seen. I've seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. It's not an angel. So the RSV translates this as, your name shall no more be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. That is not what it says in Hebrew. So this being, Vayomer shalcheni ki ala hashachar, and he said, let me go, because the dawn is rising up. And Vayomer, and he answered, Lo asha lechacha, I won't let you go, ki'im berachteni, without you blessing me. And Vayomer elav, and he said to him, Ma Shmecha, and obviously this divine being knows his name, Vayomer Yaakov. And this has the echo of, Adam and Eve in the garden, and God is saying, what have you guys done? And he knows perfectly well, but this divine being asks, what is your name? Yaakov. And this divine being says, Vayomer lo Yaakov Ye'amar od Shimcha, your name won't be Yaakov anymore. Ki im Israel, ki sarita, because you have been prince-like, leader-like. You have prevailed. Sar is a prince. Im Elohim, with God. Ve'im anashim, and with people. Ve'tuchal, and you have triumphed. You've prevailed. And this translation doesn't say what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew says, Vikra, and Yaakov called Shem Hamakom Pniel, the name of the place Pniel, Ki Ra'iti Elohim Panim El Panim, because I saw God face to face. It says Elohim. Even this translation says, I saw an angel face to face. Because what does it mean if human beings can see God face to face? It's profound. It means that we don't need organized religion in the same way. That's a different conversation. But it's a profound difference. Ki ra'iti Elohim, because I saw God, panim el panim, face to face, ve'ti natzel nafshi, and my soul was redeemed, rescued. And my soul was rescued. So the RSV says, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved. Again, it creates an antagonism between humans and God when there isn't one. In this story, Yaakov saw God face to face, wrestled with God, meaning God was testing his servant. God's more powerful. We know that. We know who's going to win if it's a real wrestling match, but it's a struggle where God can strengthen and test his servant, because there are more things he has to do ahead, Yaakov, and rename him and prepare him for the struggle to come. And and this is just incredible to me, that the story of a human being, I mean, this is the first time God comes to earth in the shape of a man. And, Christians will say later that it happened again, or that the Messiah came to earth in the shape of a man. But this is pretty intense. And it's pretty intense that multiple translations, including this one that I'm looking at right now, present this as a struggle against an angel, when it is actually God showing up to this man who's so scared. He's about to face 400 people. He sent his family ahead, his children, his whole family might be about to be massacred. And God is like, not just with him, God is engaging with him to strengthen him and try him and test him and prepare him for battle. And he concludes, I saw God, and my soul was saved, not yet I survived. So that is the end of our reading. Pretty incredible. Let's see what people are saying here. Nigel Terry says the KJV is about 95% the same as the Geneva Bible. The reason that Geneva was persecuted was mostly due to the commentary and the monarchy and Vatican wanting to monopolize the word of God within the Latin language. That may be true. I don't know enough about it. Thank you. Michael Bianchino says, give up. The Bible, really? Carlson Tucker has been sacked. You can return to sanity. I will just skip right over that. Krista Hope says, thank you, Naomi, for all you're doing. Thank you, Krista. I listened to your recent interview with Dr. Drew. You talk about the need to acknowledge we are in a battle between good and evil, and the necessity to pray because it works. You are one of few people I've heard talk like this on a secular show like Dr. Drew's. I wish more people would talk about this rather than discussing the problem over and over again and wondering why all of this darkness is happening and where it's coming from. It's clear to, she may continue, Serge May says, if you fight the evil, you are in the camp of good and your soul will be saved. Well, I certainly hope so. This was so encouraging and inspiring to me. I'm thankful that I caught this, says Ruben Arredondo. Thank you, Mr. Arredondo, Ruben. Let me go up to questions, comments that I had skipped right over. Okay. Displacido Ubaldo said, I could have died when I saw you on Steve Bannon's webcast. You should be ashamed of yourself. A Rhodes Scholar, Carl Sagan, warned us about you, me personally. People with no science education trying to understand life in a country that relies totally on technology. To people with liberal arts degrees, science is magic. That is why you cannot understand vaccines. Religion is also magic. You are suffering from dementia, probably an alcoholic. Okay. Rosario Santana says, powerful. Thank you, Ms. Santana. The Lord bless you and protect you and your family. I always remember you. Thank you. And you. Nigel Terry says, so happy you're doing this reading. I have a 1560 Geneva Bible, which I'm reading along with. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Someone in Arabic says, long time no see. Greetings. Paul Steve says, so King James Version, unclean and imperfect. We are the superstars of today. Ms. Wolf, good to learn from past lessons of human correlation to a shaded version of organized but not really organized religion. Yet we must have our own, a new Bible. Well, look, I think every translation, is, I don't think every translation is valuable, but I certainly think this is a book that lends itself to being read anew and anew and anew in each generation, because people will find new things in every generation. And who knows, it may be that new things are revealed in every generation. The people who've read it for centuries have believed that. I think that's good. I wanted to answer Krista Hope. I believe in reason. I'm a big believer in reason, and I'm not telling people to pray like proselytizing. Jews are actually forbidden to proselytize, which is interesting. But I've started to share ever since we've done this work on the Pfizer documents, and I've seen, and ever since I wrote my book, The Bodies of Others, and I've seen how the evil is of the last 3 years, how it's bigger than humans could accomplish. I concluded that something metaphysical must be happening. And I concluded that using logic and using my, very excellent, privileged education, nothing human could create evil that is so lockstep, tells the same lies around the world, is aimed at destroying children, destroying fertility, ruining families, stripping us of free will, right? Like human history is imperfect, and there are factions and things go wrong. Nothing like that happened for 3 years. It was kind of beyond what humans could accomplish. So I concluded, and I've written this in my Substack and elsewhere, that evil must exist, that really demonic forces must exist, or even satanic or kind of pre-Christian, pre-Jewish forces like Baal and Malach. I've written about this. Like, negative entities must exist um, because what I was witnessing was so bad, but also paradoxically, it made me believe in God more literally than I had, because there must be something that all this evil was aimed at, something real. Having said that, every day I bring the world evidence from the Pfizer documents that a group of like demonic murderers at a very high level around the world have colluded to destroy humanity. I mean, it is very much like the story of Egypt, where the children of Israel were going to be, enslaved, and Moses was going to be killed. And I mean, it's like a biblical time. I mean, we're targeted. I'm reporting every day on placentas that are being impaired, and a million missing babies. And the Pfizer documents show a complete attack on fertility, human fertility, and an attack on women, and an attack on breastfeeding, and an attack on the ability of human beings to continue into another generation. I mean, that's what I'm seeing every day. So, I have two choices. I could give up in despair and just conclude that humans are screwed and we're going to not make it another generation. AI is going to take over, and these horrible transhumanists and the World Economic Forum are going to take over. Or I could, try to think of what can solve this. And that's what led me to the Bible, and to the Old Testament, because there have been times when humanity has been in jeopardy in the past, at least according to the Old Testament. And and that's why I'm reading this to you guys, because I want to read it again, in a pure form. But having said that, I've concluded that humans can't get out of this situation by ourselves. We can't. And that that it is a test, that circumstances are surreally, what is the word, effective in separating us into good, those aligned with good and those aligned with evil. And it's very hard to just be neutral right now. And I think God is going to see what we're going to do, and there are no promises. Like, humanity has been almost wiped out multiple times in the past. And I guess I feel like these forces arrayed against us are more powerful than we are. So the only way out of this is by aligning ourselves with a power more powerful than they are. And so I've come to believe that prayer is a technology, and that God keeps trying to explain to us, what to do. It's pretty simple in the original. It's pretty clear what we should do. And he says it super clearly further along in the book. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn to me, I will hear from heaven and forgive them and heal their land. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I've come to believe. So you can believe whatever you want to believe, but that's why I'm reading this Bible, because I want the operating instructions. I I do believe that when humanity aligns with God, there is no power that can destroy us. But that horrible powers have entered the world because we stopped being aligned with God and with ethics and with a moral universe. So that's my hope. I have children. I want grandchildren. You have children. I don't think if we want to survive, I don't think we have a choice. I think we're at a critical inflection point where we, well, I'll speak for myself. You know, I believe that the only power that can stop this evil is the alignment of humans with their creator. And I'm glad to see that in the original text, the creator is much nicer and more loving and more intimate and more supportive and more reasonable than later versions of him often represent him as being. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off. I will see you hopefully tomorrow, and we'll just keep reading. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining me. This is Naomi Wolf, Geneva Bible. You can find me on Outspoken, my Substack. You can find me on Daily Clout. And thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.